Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. We are in India on a beautiful day of June. I, your host Vishal Gautam, will take you to a journey on this beautiful day that is brought to you by Helium Learning Labs and the and Space Development Nexus. We are talking from the city of Taj Mahal right now. I will share my screen today with a fascinating guest, Mr. Mohamed Alarabi, who has joined us from Libya, North America. Today, we are here making history by writing our names in this book of space revolution, by being some of the first ones who have gathered through this initiative called the Global Space Summit, brought to you by the Space Development Nexus and Helium Learning Labs. SDNx Foundation was established in the year 2013 with the purpose of making space accessible to everyone through its initiatives and education projects in space research and development. And Helium Learning Labs, our organizing partner, is an edtech company that aims to establish a world-class digital space school to fill the gaps between education and space industry to train the students for future workforce. This year's theme, the role of space education and research in emerging nations, was adopted to put a spotlight on the space activities in emerging nations and to empower them further. With the expectation that through this summit, the students and the young professionals will get guidance with their education and career. With all that, I have a huge amount of gratitude and a lot of excitement about the opportunity to be here. Just a few housekeeping notes that I would like to bring further, which is that this is going to be a two-segment session, each about half an hour long. And the first part will be of Mr. Mohammed sharing his experience as a space enthusiast in his emerging nation. And the second round will be a fun interview section in which you folks out there can engage with us. And I think the most important thing here is that we just don't want to make this informational transit. We would very much like to hear about you and what you have to say. Therefore, please don't hesitate. Put your answers in the Q&A box. Our guest, Mr. Mohammed, is an extraordinary gentleman, an aspiring astrophysicist, and a space science enthusiast. With a million dreams like all of us, will take us on a journey that will help us reach our escape velocity. Mr. Mohammed holds a bachelor's in mechanical engineering with an overall concentration in aeronautics, as well as master's in engineering management with concentration in artificial intelligence. Mr. Mohammed is currently working as a software development manager at Siemens Corporation, and he has worked in the aerospace industry prior to that as a military and aerospace operations engineer. Mr. Mohammed is also a political activist since the spark of the Libyan revolution in 2011. This led to fall of dictatorship regime in Libya and was appointed by the Transitional National Council of Libya as a logistic coordinator and wounded warrior upon the Libyan conflict. Mr. Mohammed has served in various executive boards positions including the National Council of US Libya Relationships, the National Organization of Amazonat Libya, and the Executive Advisory Board of Clarkson University. Mr. Mohammed is also a space activist and several research publications in the space and currently serves as a national point contact for Libya and SGAC. Mr. Mohammed, the screen is all yours.
Thank you so much for this kind presentation and your kind words. Let me share my screen for the presentation. All right. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, works perfect.
Perfect. All right. So first of all, thank you so much. I definitely don't deserve these kind words. I appreciate the kind words. I'm really happy to be here in such an initiative that advocates something that I strongly believe in, which is space knowledge for everyone and space education for everyone, regardless of their nationalities and background. Just a quick review about my background. It's a mechanical and aeronautical engineering. With some management in AI, I'm currently work as a software development manager, and I've always been passionate and interested in space. I've had a published research focused on the issue of eliminating space debris and mitigating the Kessler syndrome that is making now a lot of orbits like the LEO orbits and nearby orbits having issues in terms of space utilization because of the problem of the debris. So this is basically my background and my interest in space. I've also been a political and social activist. That's the introductory. So um, before I start, I'm currently based in the U.S., but I'm from I'm representing Libya, and I'm the national point of contact for Libya and Space Generation Advisory Council. What we're trying to do is advocate for more space publications, more space work in my country, Libya. So let me introduce you to Libya first. As you know, Libya is a North African country on the Mediterranean Sea with an area of almost 700,000 square miles, which is 1.8 million square kilometers. And Libya has been a member since in the UN since 1955, which resulted after the independence from the British in 1951. So it's a in the concept of things, a new state, but Libya has also been a coastal, area that had been occupied for 8,000 BC. It's the attractive Mediterranean location, almost 2,000 miles, 2,000 kilometers of beautiful beaches and coastal made this country attractive in terms of people to reside in it. That's more than, as I mentioned, 8,000 BC, but also made it attractive for invaders and occupiers. So it's been from from one empire to another till the independence in 1951. It's also a young country. It's just a representation of Africa, the youngest continent in the world in terms of age ratio. It has about 60% youth in Libya, so it's a very young with a lot of human capabilities and human capacity for learning and for advancing technology, including space. History of space in Libya, unfortunately, has not been very long or stable, and not that many achievements has been done. Other than most significant thing was establishing the Libyan Center for Remote Sensing and Space Science back in 1989. Except this list lasted somewhat till 2009 and continued. It has several activities that are still going, but almost fully put on hold since 2011. I'll explain in the next slide why. But that's been the biggest program. They had some space sensing, heat measurement, regulating certain agriculture needs from a space standpoint, and other components, but has not been didn't get to the amount or that we want like it to be in terms of space advancement in Libya. Uh, the US Libya Space Camp was another program that was established by NASA that started 2009. It actually continued till 2019, but it's seen some halts back in the 2012 timeframe, and I'll explain why. Then there has been some semi-active solar and lunar monitoring programs in the early 2000s. Some of them are related to the crescent of the Arabic month, which marks the beginning of the lunar calendar, as some people know, because Libya is a Muslim country. The monitoring the lunar or the crescent movement, especially during the Muslim month of Ramadan, is important to determining the beginning and end. So those are some of the space activities that took place, and a lot of individual Libyan research publications, like myself and some colleagues, that have contributed, but more of a bigger capacity, not just related to Libya. Although there has been some interesting research regarding mission planning for satellite systems in Libya that we'll talk about in the next few slides. So this is just a quick overall of the history of the program. Current Libya, as I mentioned, unfortunately, a lot of these programs stopped in 2011 because of the war that resulted in the NATO intervention that disabled the country and created a failed government after another since 2011. And still till today, the political situation is not very stable, and war has been on and off since then, and became, as I mentioned earlier, it's a very strategic location, and empires historically have always fought to take control of Libya, and unfortunately, they still continue to do that, and it became a geopolitical proxy war for some locations. Uh, uh, Hopefully, the war will stop forever and never comes back again. Currently, there is truce, and we hope that peace will go all along Libya, so we can focus and advance more space educations. But this current chaos created a lack of interest from an institutional standpoint towards the space development. I mean, there are priorities, and not, they are the safety and security. But what I'm gonna argue here is there is good utilization for implementing safety and security in Libya through space. So just wanted to put something in perspective, which is the budget and the annual budgets of spending overall. So this slide from Space in Africa is basically an overall spending of the World Space Agency's budgets. You can see North America is dominating the spending overall. I mean, we're talking about $72 billion that has been spent in Europe. I mean, the total budget was 72 billion in 2018, and Europe had almost 7.6 or 7.1 billion, whereas Africa had 283 million. So, and then moving to, we saw some halt in 2019, moving to 2020, Europe continued the budget of 7.1 billion, whereas Africa's budget rose to 500 million. So this numbers is actually not, I mean, some can argue it's not good, right? Africa only represents 0.39% of the total budget, whereas Europe is 23% and the US is 57. The equation changed a little bit, but still the same. But the rise in spending of Africa space agencies have rose 40% between 2018 and 2020, whereas it remains static in North America and Europe. So this is I'm looking at the full cup of this equation. There's a big empty portion here because of the lack of funding. There comes lack of essentiality or interest in such applications, and that starts at the education level. And that's what we're trying to help here, is to enable Africa through education programs and through initiatives, and developing countries as whole. So having such initiatives like the Helium labs and all those people that are trying to make a change in space for development countries is making difference, and we can see it on those numbers with the tremendous increase from a percentage standpoint in space agencies spending in developing countries. So why are they spending? Because the potential of space technology utilization is limitless. I mean, sky is not the limit. Sky is standing ground for space enthusiasts. So there's this aster spectral coverage and high spectral resolution picture that I'm showing here of geomapping and measuring heat transfer, measuring or monitoring something like even the glacial advances, and the monitoring of active volcanoes, identifying crop stress and determining cloud morphology and and their physical properties. There's so much utilization that is needed right now. And let's not forget the security and border control across the country that can help in the stabilization efforts by just implementing this. For example, Libya currently, because of the proxy war, there are several militaries and personnels that are banned internationally, but they're still there. If we have a rigorous space monitoring satellite that roams all over Libya, the international community could easily monitor and establish security within the country, and basically make sanctions and all needed international peaceful movements in order to maintain the stability in the country. That's just one example. And also Internet of Things and how this can enable a lot of security applications internally in terms of utilizing CCTVs and a lot of industrial and economic advances the space utilization can bring, which we'll talk more about. But again, there is a good, as a person who published a research about heat transfer and space technology. there is so much usage of data and heat, and Libya has a significant heat data. It actually recorded at 1922 the highest temperature on Earth at that time in Al Azizia, which is a city of southwest of Tripoli, the capital of Libya. That having this heat data could enable so much technological advances in terms of monitoring, disaster assessments, global warming measurement from a North African standpoint, research and national security. Of course, let's not forget the agriculture utilization for space. So there's so much potential and so much need, and the fact that it's still pure virgin country in terms of space utilization, there's significant areas for improvement and moving forward. So what are the current programs that are going on? I've talked earlier about the remote sensing that put on hold. There are obviously some capabilities in human resources, and we're trying to work with my colleagues to reviving this program as at my role at the national point of contact for Libya and space. We would like to see more remote sensing activities going, regardless of the political and geopolitical situation. Would like to focus on this and continue it. So there has been I mean, in the current programs, there has been UN Institute for Training and Research. They had, operational satellite application program back in 2011. There has been a publication regarding LibyaSat, which is a satellite mission system. I'll talk in details more about it, where this research was done by some of my colleagues in space activists in Libya. It covers the fuel consumption, the satellite characteristics, structures of the subsystems. So all the important components of developing a successful space mission and providing the needed data for that. So there is the grounds, there is the foundation for that. Just need the political will, if you may, for the state as a whole or the country as a whole to move towards that. The Libyan Center for Remote Sensing, the LCRSSS, did not have a satellite, so it's been utilizing French Spot satellite and used to send that info to the Libyan ground station for processing. So there used to be, and there has been, the Tripoli ground system, the TGS. That's a an equipped ground system that is capable right now. If, like we've talked about the mission statement of the satellite, this is capable of transferring these and processing these data to a useful information. And recently, something I'm very proud of is the Challenge One program that was launched in Tunisia, right next door to Libya. It's the first homemade North African satellite. It was purely homemade by Tunisian hands, and it was launched in March 2021 for the Internet of Things. This application is supposed to set the grounds for 30 more satellites to be launched by 2023. So it's definitely a huge break in the space technology and the space advancement in the region. And then also the African Space Agency has been making some great cooperation on the African Union, pushing for more space utilization. So that was also another great achievement in the space. So like the LibyaSat that I'm talking about is just basically a 300 kilograms mini satellite that can be launched in the LEO orbit, so some 775 kilometers away, and that can provide camera resolution of 2.5 meters for the panoramic band. So it can have some clear images that you can see. This is taken by the Spot satellite, but we can replace that by LibyaSat-1, which I'll talk more about. So moving to talk more about Challenge One, because Challenge One is a great example of how space advancement is possible. It happens 500 kilometers to the west of Libya, right in Tunisia. Some Libyan cities are right on the Tunisian border, so it's a very the geographical nearest and the culture similarities can enable so much, and it's definitely was an eye opener and something for a lot of developing nations to look up to. It was homemade in Tunisia. Was launched via the Suez 2 rocket, which is a Russian rocket from Kazakhstan, and so the satellite itself is 100% homemade. The launcher, however, was Russian technology. So, but that was an amazing start, because this is only the sixth African country that make its own satellite, and the first country in North Africa. So it uses the LoRa protocol for communication, which is the basic RF control for long range communication, and it's basically enabled the IoT of things. But the best thing is the budget of it. It was 1 million Tunisian dinars, which is almost half a million US dollars, and this is cheap. It's arguably, from a space standpoint, I mean, the launcher, regardless of the launcher launching costs, but just development of the satellite itself. And that's the reason they were able to make it affordable, is because of the advancement of homegrown technological tools in Tunisia. So uh, this means the same can be done in other development countries, including right next door Libya. So that's why I wanted to talk about Challenge One in details. It could enable the Internet of Things, which is a high needed commodity in Libya right now, as I've mentioned earlier, that could enable a lot of establishments, a lot of security monitoring, a lot of economic development in terms of production, in terms of economic progress, and so many other fields. So this is another reason why Challenge One was an impressive report to talk about. Libya Sat-1 is the mission statement that I mentioned that my colleagues have provided. And it's a unique 300 kilograms. It's a mini satellite, right? We got without the launcher. So this was done 2015. So the budget was a little bit more because of the enablement and the outsourcing outsourcing of the components related to that satellite. But it basically, the mission and overview planning, the fuel consumption, something was laid out too, and something, it's a similar research that I've done regarding the space debris elimination, where I've designed the fuel consumption and mission planning as well for that satellite that would go to the Leo airport orbit, but that was for a separate mission. So maybe we can utilize that information, including to this information, and provide that and to space activists and enthusiasts to push forward more for so we have the grounds to pushing more for launching as satellites for the Internet of Things, and that's what we try to do. So uh, such a satellite can be a sun synchronous, which means like it will be it will follow the movement of the sun, providing constant sun to the solar panels. And such a satellite, the mission statement of it requires only 53.2 watts of power of consumption. So this is very energy efficient, and having it a sun synchronous, it can be it can be fueled with the solar panel, so it will make the maintenance cost and the long-term maintenance, especially with the lack of the infrastructure for satellite controlling from Libya, it will make it cheaper, because you don't have the infrastructure for such a monitoring ground stations. You'll have to outsource these, and this could add to the overall value and budget of it. We try to make such a mission statement and such a proposal attractive in terms of price and in terms of maintenance, so it can be an easier bite, if you may, for establishment and for make such a huge project happen. So there are other. This is on the practical level. There is also the education, as I mentioned. The lack of education in Africa, in Libya specifically, in terms of space, is a huge impediment and a huge issue that is causing a halt in the space progress. There's no programs for space technology in Libya whatsoever. As a person growing up in Libya, I've always wanted to. Always been fascinating and interested in space. I could not study space technology in my home country, and that's why I relocated to the U.S. and pursuing my higher education to study aeronautical and mechanical engineering. But this is not available right now in Libya, and that must change. Although now there are more enabling online learning tools, and those are things including the Helium labs and other similar activities and initiatives that are currently being developed, including the Commercial Space Project group by the Space Generation Advisory Council. And this group, what our team is trying to do here is provide space regulatory challenge of international framework on space mining from a commercial standpoint. So how can we utilize commercial space in that specific region or in that specific country, addressing the economic challenges of space mining, using case studies on different in different bodies, disseminate conclusions, and to promote a well-balanced regulation for commercial space resources. So having the grounds, the infrastructure for this development, because this will enable private sector to commercialize space, and this could enable more technological advancements, just like Talent was the company that developed the satellite in Tunisia, and that's a privately held company. So this could make this as well, from a regulatory standpoint, working through the commercial space project could enable more development in Libya, and this is another avenue that we're working at. Having some sort of a think tank to grow these ideas, and providing again more incentive for privatization and commercial space projects overall. And the outreach in this can be with events like hackathons that are very good for web developers and space enthusiasts, webinars and podcasts, obviously newsletters and publications, and great conferences like this one that the Helium and SDNc are sponsoring. So these initiatives altogether can enable more advancement and more education of how can we create bigger space interest in Libya and the whole world, basically connecting the world better. Another big program that is happening right now is the Africa Space Education Program. It's another Space Generation Advisory Council initiative. This is more of continental bases, having programs. There are working groups. There are lectures and webinars, and it's just basically working on more creating a network of personnels and institutions. So basically, if an institution in Libya, or like if there is a space body, let's say in my previous University of Benghazi, as a person who was looking for space couldn't find it, but now connecting with people with the student body over there, we can push for more space curriculum to be taught in the engineering department. Maybe we can't start right now with the whole aeronautical engineering department, but we can start with at least pushing more space learnings, working groups, even online sessions that can be somehow incorporated with the curriculum of other courses, and this is another avenue that we're working on. And basically, such a space education program would have an areas of focus on the principles and the standards of space education. So Earth observation satellites, navigation and positioning satellites, communication, also like, the basics of heat transfer, airframe design and flight dynamics. All of these components, if they are taught well from a space standpoint, this could increase the human capabilities and capacity in Libya. Also teaching them more about the software and applications of space, because everything is controlled by softwares now, and with the progress of artificial intelligence and the deep learning and machine learning, there's so much utilization, I can say less work that is needed for developing countries to move in. Because just like think about it, when the space agency started in the 80s and late 70s in the US, I mean, after the moon landing, I'm talking about commercial space. They started with the old computers with the pre-designed algorithms. That some of the components were saved in labels and like actual hard copies and old equipments, flash drives with a capacity of 200 kilobytes, and it was very old equipments. How flashing over to 2021 today, we have the capabilities of having an entire mission statement on a flash drive with the fuel consumption, determining all the orbital needs, the elevation, just on a flash drive. So this is fascinating how much development. This can make transfer of space technology so much more efficient and easier to countries that only jumping on the space right now. Thus, we saw the 40% increase in budgets in African spending. So there is a very promising full side or full cub, the full side of the cub, and there is potential for space growth in Libya. And as long as we believe in it, we'll continue to push for a better future in space. What we're looking for right now, during, like I've talked about during the previous presentation, is mainly building the human capabilities that we lack. There's people that are interested. There's a lot of great mines to harvest and all over the world, utilizing a lot of other developing countries that we can work cooperatively together. Because right now we are on the same platform from all over the world, and we can talk together with the same interests. We have a space, that globe that unites us, and basically building those capabilities locally in Libya will tremendously transform the space process. As I said, 60%. It's a very young country with a 6% youth. That makes it very attractive for institutions and teaching capabilities to take place in Libya. But first, we need to set the infrastructure needs, the good internet connectivity needs, the Internet of Things. This will enable a lot of easier communication and building better human capabilities. But for now, we'll work with what we have, and we'll continue advancing these programs that I've been talking about. Increasing partnerships, as I mentioned, between regional players. I mean, utilizing the uh, Tunisia One program, and then the best thing or the most important concept here is the ROI for such an investment. Return of investment for space. Why would some investors, if we can't have a stable government to fund it, but why would an institution for profit like a company would want to do that? So us as space enthusiasts, we care, what we care most about is the establishment of the space project. So we need to basically justify such an investment from a private investor or from a government institution. One example that could take place is the Formsat 2, which is, I believe it was an Indonesian satellite, and it was the first satellite that was launched, and that cost 165.5 million dollars. The justification process for such a thing could be harder than justifying the challenge one, which cost almost like 350,000 on average, versus the average of spending on satellites. So that was 350 from the establishment up to 500,000, as I mentioned earlier, for the launching. So it was definitely an attractive budget. Or easier budget to buy it, and I'm sure there are, with harder work, and maybe we can even divide the funding into different avenues and try to look into establishing that. But I think launching a Libyan satellite like LibyaSat-1 would be a great start, and it will make a tremendous push and transformation in the region, just like Tunisia did. And then something that can easily be harvested there is the utilization of power generation. So Morocco, starting 2015, started a solar program just in 2015, and now it has over 38% of its electricity generated from the solar tools. So this is two countries away, and Libya has a bigger Sahara desert in Libya than it is in Morocco, because of the huge land that Libya lays on. So there's this potential of utilizing same technology for that. Why I'm talking about solar panels in a space webinar, because we can utilize the space application, the heat transfer data collection that I talked about earlier, to enable what solar panels, what materials, and also monitoring the lunar movement and the synchronous sun rotation to enable a better utilization of solar panels in Libya. And as I mentioned, between 2015 to now, 38%. That's a huge transfer. Matter of fact, Morocco is now supplying Europe. It's the only It's the only African country with a cable now connected to Europe, funding them with a lot of megawatts of renewable energy. And this is also a project that could bring up to 400 billion of revenue by 2030 for Morocco. So just like putting that in perspective, there are limitless money making per se industries that can be enabled by space, and it's inefficient. It's not just the money generation component. It's mostly to protect this beautiful world and this beautiful earth that we live in by utilizing more solar energy and more renewable energy sources that can help us compete global warming and other pandemics. So this is the end of my presentation, and I really enjoyed giving this, and I appreciate you having given me the time to give this presentation. And I hope I was able to bring some value to you, and I look forward to your questions and to the discussion part. If anybody wants the presentation, please email me at my email at the Space Generation Council. I'll be happy to share this information or any other information. And please reach out to me if you're interested in learning more about programs in Libya, and if you want to be part of the change towards Libya and other developing country. I look forward to building a network, and I want to use this platform to connect with more space enthusiasts like me so we can work together. We have the same mission here, no hidden agenda. We all want space development all over the world, and let's work together to do it. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. Thank you for the insights of the recent developments in the space country. And I am motivated, and certainly we all are, with the presentation that you have presented, because I think that I have a secret that I want to share with you and the people who are watching right now. And this secret is what you have already said. And it is that the space development is happening. And the emerging nations are going through the space, and this is happening now. Space is not not far enough as we think that it is. It's simply, if we work together and collaborate, just like you said, if we network properly and we collaborate just like this, and just connect all the enthusiasts that we are, and we are sure that the countries all together will be prospering in the upcoming days. And we as a community will further grow and keep inspiring people to progress toward the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, this is exactly what you said. This is where we're heading. I mean, look at us now. We're making presentation about Libya from India and the United States all at once, right? So this is possible. This is possible now more than ever.
Part of this, we can thank to the crisis, the corona as well, because this is why we are all sitting at home, and we're getting these ideas to connect with people across the country.
Exactly.
Now we are having a conversation like this. Certainly, this is going to be a general thing that most of the people will be having from now. And I realized, you brought up a point that back in after the moon mission, that computers used to be so huge. About 256 megabytes of file used to be this huge and humongous. But now all of that can be made into a small flash drive and can be sent. That has brought us a lot of development in the space sector, because now we can go miniature. And since you're already from the satellite background, you talked about a lot about imagery of terrain mapping and things like that. That is a big part of this revolution as well, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Data. I would say also, to your point, like data transfer now is just so much possible, like with the cloud, like just the beginning. I mean, the entire NASA in the 80s didn't have enough cloud than what we have in our iPhones right now, personally. So
Exactly.
this is reachable and accessible from any part of the world with this enabled technology. This is huge in space development, and this can enable a lot of transfer of knowledge and transfer of data. So that could be as cheap as the Tunisians will able to make it. This is a very fascinating. It's a breakthrough in how affordable a satellite can be made, and I think this just was an eye opener for a lot of space agencies and a lot of funding. I mean, look what India has been doing with space. It was phenomenal. The going to the Guinness record of launching the most satellites in one day. That was the whole world was taken by granted, but that was a reminder that hey, we can do it. So if we can do it, you can do it too. So I think that's the good message that we need to continue preaching, as like you've been doing.
Yes, but yeah, that is lovely that you have said that about India, and most of the nations are doing the same. But there
Hmm.
is a small drop. There is a small problem, that is the manufacturing part is slightly lower still. We still have to
Hmm.
get material from places that are far above, far ahead of us. Say United
Hmm.
States, here are material from there. China are
Hmm.
only producer of our manufacturing units.
Hmm.
So,
And the reason, as I just showed in the thing, I wanted to show that to basically eliminate this image of superiority that other imperial countries have. They what they have is the funding. It's the budget that they spend on the space. It's not the space mines, because working in the space industry in the United States, it's people from all over the world. It's this multifaceted cultural melting pot that enabled a lot of great minds to come together from all over the world to work together. So this is because the United States and other nations in Europe relied a lot on immigration and a lot on attracting the pioneers and the smartest that enabled them to become faster. And this is something we can also improve in our individual, in our nations in India and Libya and other places. We can enable great minds from all over to come work, because as I mentioned, we don't care where you come from, we don't care your race. Actually, if you're alien, you can still work with us. We want to go to space. So it's basically focusing on that, enabling this learning from this lesson. This would enable investment. That's why the private sector is big. I mean, the United States represents 57%. North America, I mean, between the United States and Canada, 57% of the funding of or the space expenditure of the World Space Agency. So that's because they spend the money. That's why they make the progress. As as you mentioned, they also there's a lot of programs like ESA, European Space Agency. They have a lot of programs that they want to help North African and other nations in nearby region. So there's this area of, and there's potential of working together. And now for also the necessity, but one step at a time we can develop. I mean, Tunisia developed the satellite 100% homemade. So did India before them. So the launcher can be developed after that. Now they relied on Russian technology, but in the future it can rely on that. Now we went to the Leo orbit. We can go even further next time. So those are one step at a time is what we can do.
I do agree that I do agree to that, and I do believe that, like you mentioned earlier here, only that
Hmm.
this the feeling of superiority should never be there.
Absolutely.
It's only the matter of the funding. But this brings up to another question, that the question that a non-technical person may ask. I'm not saying that a non-technical person will only ask this. What I'm saying is that we are space enthusiasts. We can dream of investing so much money and capital into a mission, such as a space mission, maybe a moon mission, that
Hmm.
that originally during the testing phase will not do us any benefit apart from its scientific uh, mm, mark that we'll reach.
Hmm.
The question is that why is it that so much of capital and money is spent, like you only said, in your country, only on your Libya Sat 1, you spent about $500,000, which which is
So.
quite a lot of
Mhm.
money. So instead of spending that money into the space or into this development of space, why not spend that money in hospitality and so many basic needs that humanity is going through? What do you have to say about
Mhm.
it?
Absolutely. I mean, we got this argument a while ago. Then that's a big obstacle that we're trying to overcome, especially when you have, as you mentioned, more necessities like basic needs right now. I mean, when people are, unfortunately, like in my country, Libya, there's when people are suffering from war, they are worried about food and hospitals before they can worry about space, and that's the reaction that we get. But that doesn't mean that we just stop everything that we're doing and focus only on that. We need to prioritize safety first and prioritize the basic needs and human rights. But we can some not everybody can work on that. Some people can work on space technology. As a political activist myself and working in the social fields, I've been working with a lot of non-profit organizations to advancing that space. So this is advancing safety and security in Libya, and I did that back in Libya, and even from my role here in the United States. Uh, but this also, there's a lot of players in that field, a lot of politicians. But then we also have the need for space technology, and when I saw that there's not that many advancement. I mean, when I was just preparing for this presentation, I'm trying to find the geographical importance of Libya to space. I couldn't find a single article about that. There is no publications about some specifications for this. If you just do that research about, I mean, New York City, you'll find so many space technology information, so many data that you can utilize. So we need to start building the infrastructure towards it. And from a justification, that's why I kept mentioning the prices and the funding and the money. Justification, working in corporations, I know that justification, any expenditure is expensive. But what I'm focusing on here is the return of investment. What is this going to bring us back? Because from a commercial standpoint, and that's why privatization, the space, if we enable investors and private investors and businessmen from Libya and all over the world to showcase the technology and that can be in their possession, and also showcase the potential of return of investment. uh, Internet of Things is just one example. We can enable so many applications with that, and more hybrid interactive education systems, more enabling other economic advances. So, and the fact that yes, we can argue that $500,000 is a lot of money, but from a space development mission standpoint and the return of investment, because if you spend 500,000 today, in 3 years your project could bring 3 million. So just a hypothetical numbers out there, but this could be a much bigger return of investment. And now I'm actually happy to see there are more data being collected, like the launching of Challenge One. Tunisia right next door, they were able to justify it, they were able to do it. We can even rely on that data and see, hey, this is exactly how much it costs, and this is exactly how much it brought back during how long. So just focusing on this, and that's why I've been reiterating that throughout my presentation, that it's very important to focus on this. And uh, we've been having a fight back in terms of priorities, from all levels. I mean, I've had a discussion recently with the Libyan representative to the United Nations in New York, of the Libyan mission to United Nations, and he's a high up official in Libya, and I asked about the potential of space, and can we, if advancement of space, where can we start, what can we do, and it was just like I got a very mean answer, saying basically, let's just worry about what we have on Earth right now. Let's not just go that high up, because it makes sense. It does make sense, but it's not gonna stop me from continuing what I believe is right, which is the future of space. Because once the time comes, because I strongly believe that Libya will prosper again and safety will happen. Once this happens, we will be much more advanced if we continued our work today, rather than if we stop today and started from the scratch when this happens. So that's another reason why we should continue the space funding and space education programs.
Even though the question was, it was for me to ask you questions, but I realized one point listening to you towards this answer, which is, I think that safety is definitely a priority, and why not? The government should take part of that, and as you mentioned, privatization, that should be given more push, and because of privatization, we can invest more into, not into safety, but into development programs such as space and satellites and other.
Absolutely.
Could you stretch a little bit about this? How can privatization be achieved? You said only that privatization is one main thing to this.
Yeah, so it's definitely privatization, because the lack of like trust in governments, especially after a failed government after another in Libya, through corruption, through geopolitical proxy war, and basically pressure that has been done on some politicians. So their focus shifted from benefiting the nation to just benefiting themselves, and that's basically is not how technology advancement can prosper. And no private entity would want to work in a corrupt environment, because this could, unless they benefit from it. But a lot of international, especially well-established space agencies and companies, have regulations and ethics requirements that just cannot get involved. So privatization need an infrastructure, and the infrastructure is basically two main key components. It's safety and security. And if we have those components, that which needs to be done on the governmental level, then a lot of these things can be enabled. You need to have guarantees from a well stabilized government to those private entities, to create more to create basically, or spend or make their fundings. But this has been an issue for every, this is the key, and that's the need, the number one need for any industry to prosper. When I say about manufacturing, Internet of Things, for any other economic, making cars, economic advancements, any other industries will require that, right, if it's done in Libya. Space, however, has the unique advantage of can be operating from outside of this all chaos, because the lack of safety and security in Libya, for example, there are some engineers from different nations that were working on a project, an energy project in the desert, and a group of militia was able to kidnap them, and that put all the work on hold. It was a big international crisis. This should not happen in space, because they can operate from any safe areas, even outside of the country. I mean, the Tunisian satellite was launched from Kazakhstan, completely different continent. And this can be done in Libya as well, if we justify the return of investment on the ground over there, because launching a satellite from Kazakhstan can create more internet application in Tunis. So this is the advantage that we can have for space, and guaranteeing to investors more so than any other investors, that your equipment is safe. Your equipment is not going to be hijacked because of the lack of security and lack of stabilization or stable government. It can be maintained because it's safe up there. It's on the space. It's out the reach of militias. They can't go up there and steal it. So that's one big advantage that I'm emphasizing heavily whenever we try to justify any huge expenditure in space but also the political will must be there, because as I mentioned earlier, having the regulations in place, having the commitment from the government to enable things, because again, with the corrupt disable government, then they could actually stop any progress if we overcome them, if we oversee them, surpass their limitless authority. They could potentially harm any investment or any return of investment that we need to harvest. So having this sort of guarantees from like local standpoint is usually the challenge. But working on that end by the commercial space advancement program, educating how can we build the infrastructure, having the laws in place, having the regulations in place, and also working on getting the data and the return of investment justification for the private investors, because private investors can be international, can be also local. and with some semi-governmental cooperation. It doesn't have to be in terms of funding, but it can be at least from giving the legal umbrella for such an initiative can definitely advance so many ways. So it's a very complex equation how to create further spice privatization in Libya, because so many variables are correlated to each other, and it's starting from the safety establishment, which I argued that it's not as needed as other industries yet. The infrastructure and the local support and the governmental and legal umbrella to allow those investors to harvest the return of investments years to come from making the investment. So all of these requirements is basically what are need to happen before we can spend more or thrive more into space privatization in Libya.
I think that's all perfectly put with all those words together. That
Thank you.
infrastructure, legal umbrella, and
Hmm.
more policies that the government can make will
Hmm.
all pays into this. Now,
Absolutely.
yeah, and you said that government can. What I want to ask you that what are the policies, because with the growth of infrastructural development, certainly
Hmm.
not will it only not will it only boost the manufacturing part, but also the research capabilities of people, because people
Hmm.
then will be more derived towards doing more research, and ultimately this will help us prosper this our whole
Hmm.
this initiative called space. And
Hmm.
what, according to you, the government can bring, what legal umbrella can the government bring to into and what policies can it make in order to give more opportunities in terms of research and development?
So there are, I mean, there like things that, for example, the commercial space project as well, is activities that they're working on, having the think tank by legal space experts. This is actually a major, and it requires a lot of in-depth knowledge. So, like Libya is a subscriber to the United Nations, adhering to the International Accord of Space of the United Nations because it's a UN member since 1955. So that's a good progress. That's a good start in terms of infrastructure and legal infrastructure for space. However, what we need to some of the legal laws has not been updated since the 50s in Libya, and regarding international investing and the limits and sometimes the limits or the constraints that can be put on international investors outside of Libya, because I'm arguing here for more global focus of investments, not just that will make it easier. I believe that Libya has the capabilities. As you're probably aware, Libya is a very rich country in terms of oil production. It's like the seventh richest for per capita in terms of return of the oil, and this is a bless and I mean a bless, and some argue that it's basically the issue that now we're having this geopolitical and proxy interests from all over the world. But again, this resource can be transformed. Look what UAE and Qatar and other nations have done with that. UAE, just United Arab Emirates, just went to Mars recently. They launched a rocket to Mars, being the first Arab nation to do that, and that's where transforming the internal resources, the oil resources, into more sustainable progress. So a similar way that we can invest some of that money on it. However, I'm trying to even look from a bigger standpoint, because this money is surrounded with so much corruption, so much interest from a lot of players and people who are in power right now. They don't have any interest. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, when I spoke to politicians and when I tried to advance it on the bigger level of the Libyan political umbrella, I found resistance. So that's why I'm going around, and I will when I will work elsewhere, I will bring the knowledge, the funding, and everything from an international standpoint. So some of the regulations in terms of private investors regulations, space-related investment regulations, and that's why with the space with space development program, we want to create think tanks and people who are more aware. I mean, I'm an engineer. I'm not aware about the legal infrastructure of Libya, right? So that's why I want to build a network, having those people get my engineering perspective and learning from their legal perspective, try to develop a more sustainable law. But right now, the laws that we're trying to focus more into, at least bringing to the service, has to do with international investors, and has to do with the constraints from a government into the private sectors, because as you probably know, I mean, since the 60s till 2011, Libya has lived in a dictatorship, and that changed in 2011, and that's where the chaos in the last 10 or 11 years has continued. So some of the laws remained before the 2011 during the dictatorship, and those laws did not prefer cooperation with international players.
Yes. Thank you again for the answers this time. There's
Absolutely.
the part of multidisciplinary interactions definitely helps here. That uh,
Hmm.
your like you networking with people, your engineering aspect with those with their with their legal aspects. This will
Absolutely.
enhance.
Hmm.
Now, before jumping into anything, because I have a lot more, because I have a lot of questions with you in this technical department, but I think we should jump a little bit into your personal presence, about how
Hmm.
you are personally, because certainly a lot of people who are watching this right now uh, are into the motivational aspects also.
Hmm.
What brought you the motivation? I have a small little rapid fire round for you prepared, and I want you to answer in single words quickly as you can.
Okay.
All right. So describe yourself in 3 words, Mr. Mohammed.
3 words. Oh,
Yes.
I wasn't prepared for this.
No worries.
uh,
This is the rapid fire round. You speak out of your mind without thinking, without having to think about it.
I, you know, I would say persistence, uh, and persistence, dreamer, and definitely committer. I like two disciplines I like to carry is persistence and commitment. And I believe it's not there's no special, there's no people. Yeah, I mean, there's mental capacity that's different from between people, but it's not the key player. I think the key different is having the commitment, having the energy to wake up every day to do more and to deliver more. And I'm an early morning person. I mean, right now it's like 5 a.m. In Eastern New York, Eastern US. So it's I like early mornings, and that provides more persistence. So I think committing to something, waking up early, doing it, is definitely something I'd like to describe myself with, is those 3 words. So persistent, commitment, and dreaming. I mean, I'm nowhere where I want to be, but I continue to dream, and I think dreaming is definitely a good feature or virtue to have.
Thank you for such wonderful answers again.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to have put you in a situation where you have to talk about yourself,
No worries.
but this is how it goes. Now, my next question to you is: tell us your favorite space movie.
Back to the Future. It's not very space, but I just like the equipment. I've seen it. That's definitely one good space movie that I enjoyed, and that's yeah, I would probably argue that it's more of a sci-fi kind of space related movie. I don't like the ones where aliens come and invade the Earth, because I think they're nice people out there, and we shouldn't stereotype or aliens as bad. I mean, there's AT. We all know AT. We all like AT, right?
Yes.
So
Aliens. I had a fun question. Let me ask you a question about aliens now. Suppose
okay.
you were confronted by aliens somewhere, and now you see them for the first time. You are there standing. They are big and huge. They are big and huge and horrifying looking. What
Uh-huh.
will your first expression be? Firstly, and what will you ask to them?
I will immediately ask him, help us with space. I mean, you obviously know better than us. Help us with space. If they made it to come and all the way to Earth, abduct me and take me, so they were able to reach us. We didn't reach them yet, uh, whether they exist or not. So if they ever do, I'm gonna ask for their help. I have so many technical questions for them. Just help. Is this mission plan right? Are we doing it the right way? Because so many enders has been reinvented, revolutionized. Are we thinking the right way? Should we go down instead of up? Or should we focus on the Leo orbit? Should we get out of it? Is sun a good platform to fund our solar energy, or is there a better way? Is lithium the right way for batteries, or is the hydrogen fuel consumption the best way? So many questions that I'll ask them to enable more space advancement for us, hopefully.
I'm sure before you even complete this question of asking them, they will leave you right there.
Okay, out. I'm done. Yeah, that's that's true. I mean, hey, they're the ones you said abducted me, so they gotta put up with me.
But nobody want to abduct somebody that they feel jeopardized about their own identity after that.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll
They,
be
won't-
an
they don't want you to give their secrets about how to venture out there in the space.
yeah. Yeah, where human race have made so much progress. I mean, look where we were in the 70s in terms of space development, where we are right now. So it's
You,
something to be proud of, but I think we still can do better. We,
you must have read a lot of books and must have seen a lot of documentaries. Do you think that humans we were aliens somewhere who just out of somewhere came to Earth and then existed and then yeah back to what we were before?
it's yeah, I mean this whole I mean, this, like of the origins of a human race and species. There's so many theories out there. I mean, there's like the evidence of the Big Bang of millions of years ago, and the geological remains in so many parts of the earth, including my country, Libya, that speaks of the existence of this earth and the change, the demographic changes in terms, and also the geological changes that occurred over the last couple million years, and which again, so many people have different beliefs on that coming all together. So I'm, as a person of who prescribes to science and prescribes to data and engineering, I can't dissipate any fact or any theory out there, because they're all theories, and any theory in even at least in science can be
Proven
uh,
wrong.
exactly, yeah, proven right or proven wrong. But we can't for a fact determine or dissipate any idea without that. So anything is possible. However, as of now, there is no believe me, I'd like to see evidence of space. And I've seen so many. Yes, you're right, I like watching documentaries about space, and some even about conspiracies of having space knowledge, space interactions. There are a lot of stories. There are a lot of UFOs, scenery. This could be related to it, but can definitely be related to some other factor. Could be an international UFO. It could be a sky syndrome or phenomena that happened. I mean, and just so many. There's so many different. School of thoughts on that regards. As a person of science, and as I mentioned again, I can prove or disapprove them except with substantial evidence. As of now, I don't think there is enough substantial evidence to prove that there has been interaction with aliens.
I do
That's
believe that too. Yes.
hmm
And
so
now
that's yep.
we're coming up to the final part of the section, which is I have just a few couple questions left for you, and these are a little bit serious.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to know that from your side because you have already had a big, you have had a fair bit of limelight under aerospace industry because you work in Siemens and you work with SGAC and a lot more aerospace applications of aerospace. I think you would be a perfect person to answer to someone who is looking to pursue their career in space sector. So, how should the next generation be prepared, or how should they prepare themselves to get into space sector? Also, tell us the struggles that you faced in pursuit of during the pursuit of your dreams.
So it's something. It's definitely now with the job market high competition. So equipping yourself with the technical needed knowledge. There, I mean, there are university official training. I mean, like something that really helped me progressing and moving up in my career is going to school and going to graduate school, getting my master's as well, but also focusing on the other technical certifications. So my advice would be getting those technical trainings. There are coding trainings and badges in Python. There is object-oriented programming trainings. There are so many free trainings out there. Some are on LinkedIn, others on different programs. So uh, the Helium Labs offers a lot of training, so there is a lot of these things that can increase your resume. And industries, at least in the U.S. and where I work, do appreciate these things when they look at the specific driven trainings is something definitely helpful. But also they also value a lot multifaceted personality and multidisciplinary interests. So being my background in political activism back in Libya, and continuing that, and some of my of the non-profit organization, non-governmental organization that I've been part of, and also some of my governmental appointees before. This helps make you a better candidate if you broaden your knowledge. So because I've had a lot of engineers friends like, I'm an engineer, I don't play music, I'm an engineer, I don't do that. Just do it, like go broader your knowledge, look into different paths, get more hobbies that can benefit you directly. So trainings definitely based on certifications. There are a lot of certifications that so many companies are looking for. So a good way to start is maybe looking into a job description that you really like, and read through the job description, see what you're missing, because it will say it right there. So that's reverse engineer the career process. That's how I did so many times. I would look at jobs that I really liked, and I will read the description. Okay, they prefer the certification, I'll work on it. I'll start working on this, wake up early, study for it, do the exam and get it, and it's the same thing for school and for other things. So there is the base infrastructure, which is an actual academic education, but then also the career specific certifications, and the other part being a well-rounded person. It's very important, because we continue to work with the humans. We're utilizing machines more, but we'll continue to work with the humans, and humans do value that, because it does bring, being a multifaceted, thinking outside of the box, having other hobbies and other interests, it does actually make you a better engineer, it makes you a better scientist, it makes you a better economist. Whatever you're doing, having not a narrow mind in terms of thinking, having a wider range of understanding, having more global mindset will definitely enable this. And I gotta say, if you are interested in space, which means you're here, you definitely do have that global mindset, because all the people that are watching today, and all our beloved attendees and speakers and everybody here, I see, I've been watching through the conference, they do possess this important features, having global mindset. And that's why we're in the Global Space Summit, because of our mindset here. So continue prospering with this, continue advancing with this, but definitely continue the technical on paper education in terms of certifications and academic knowledge.
Those were certainly some words of wisdom. Thank you again.
Thank you.
so many certificates can be achieved. Okay, job descriptions can be wherein then people can apply to it accordingly.
Absolutely.
After that is done, so many jobs are created and so many things are created. How do you think that sustainability can be achieved through this?
You have to continue on the same path, absolutely, because you getting in, I mean, as people will say, right, going to the top is easy, staying on the top is hard. It can be said, some sort of analogy for certain jobs. There's a lot of competition's growing out there. Continue the drive that will get you, not continue education. So a lot of programs, a lot of companies do support their employees to continue doing it again. They actually pay for education, pay for school, for continuation of school. A lot of companies do that. So it's important to do your research and learn that the company does offer that. A lot of companies even pay for graduate school for a lot of their employees. So looking at these components and making sure that the company supports continuous education. So when you get to doing a job, especially as the space sector continuously evolving, uh, people need to be on the top of that evolvement, be prescribing to all the technological changes, and a lot of a lot of companies here, they need that, so they will send their employees for trainings onto any new technology that appears, any new systems that appears, utilizing new tools, softwares. I mean, with automation and robot utilization too is also a big component. So there is a lot of ongoing training, so that will continue. So get used to it now. Start with doing your own training. It's gonna be expensive to pay for it by yourself, but look at the return of investment. This is an investment in yourself, and it's the best investment that can be done. So going to trainings that are offered online, whether in any platforms like the Helium labs, like other platforms, there are free, there are monetary, but they're worth it. So it's something that definitely worth the investment, and I urge everybody to pursue further career-based trainings, and continue doing that even once you get to your job, because sometimes you will get to your job, but then you see another job that you like better. Read the description and reverse engineer and start working on getting your own certifications, even if your job doesn't pay for it. But again, that's a source that some jobs pay for it. There, even for coming from development nations, there are a lot of Fulbright and other scholarship opportunities that are out there that people who maintain certain GPA or certain requirements can benefit from. So just like continue having the drive and the commitment to do it. It can be done, and anybody, I believe, can do it.
This has been a common thing among all of the speakers that we have interviewed so far. That is that skill development is, it cannot be stressed enough how much important it is. Right after when you
Absolutely.
graduate, after your engineering or whatever degree that you are pursuing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like when you have it, education never ends. I mean, yeah, it just you continue doing that always on so many levels. I mean, I when after I graduated uh, undergrad school, I started working full time in the space sector. I was also going to school full time, and while doing my other involvements in nonprofit organization, and doing trainings and certifications. So you can do it. It's doable. Having some time management to do it, it's possible. And a lot of my colleagues and a lot of friends I had who have done the same thing, going to school full time and working full time at the same time. It's challenging. You're not going to be doing anything but homework in the weekend, but in the long term, it's definitely worth it. It will open so much better career paths for you. It will make you a more valuable candidate. Once this is over, keep continuing. I'm preparing for another certification right now, and I'm continuing. I'm actually thinking about getting another master's or maybe getting a PhD, but I'm trying to find the right basically topic to focus on and research, but this is another thing I'm considering. It became, as you know, they say you can develop a habit in 22 days or something, that in 90 days it can become a habit. Just don't lose it, continue that drive to do it. And you can start small steps. Some people study 2 or 3 hours a day, or start with reading one article for 20 minutes or 10 minutes a day, and just you have 10 minutes. I argue anybody, some people will say, oh, I'm busy, I don't have time. No, you do have 10 minutes. Just you spend 10 minutes on your phone, on Facebook or something else, right? You have 10 minutes. You just start doing it, start reading. And skill development is, as yeah, my previous colleagues and speakers have mentioned, it is it. This is it. It's, as I mentioned, I believe that people are very similar. I understand there are some mental capacities and mental uh, infrastructure, if you may, but this is just a variable of the whole equation of how much people can progress. It's not just the smartest people. I mean, you look at a lot of successful people didn't finish college, so they're definitely not. You can argue that they're not book smart. So it's not just that; it's definitely having the drive and the commitment towards it. So having the drive is the key, and continue developing your skills.
Exactly. This is self investment, and self investment is always, it always pays you better uh, return of
Absolutely.
investment, and it never goes into vain. You can definitely go for a second master's or a PhD, but it is
Hmm.
always investing into yourself, and by doing so,
Exactly.
not only can you prosper into space but everywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. That's that. I mean, that's the thing, is continuing to invest on yourself, and also investing the time. The time is the bigger, and that's when there's a lot of
Both
before.
commodities, we can say, since time is money and money is time. So
Absolutely. Absolutely,
both
you're
should be
completely
same.
right there. Yeah, and just having the time, devoting the time to read. As I mentioned, there's a lot of free open source tools and uh, literature out there about space technology. Because if you just do that, maybe you can show up in an interview. If you get the potential to get an interview, and hey, I'm aware, I'm experienced of this topic, I understand it, I read it, I researched it, you can get a great job in the space sector, and you are needed in the space sector because you'll contribute to that. And we need more people to be knowledgeable and educated in space, because look at it's increasing. Our countries, our nations have the potential, have the capacity. They just need the will and somewhere to start. So if you have 20 Indians who are knowledgeable about space, they can start. There's a lot of space startups out there. They can start their own company that will hire a lot more. It will bring economic prosperity to their region, to their country, and same can apply to any other nation in space. So it's a very similar topic.
I think my questions are over now, and all I have as a token of the last words is I can only thank you that you came here and you
Thank
spent
you.
your, and you presented your wonderful presentation and your insights and your answers the the question that most of us have about space. Well,
Absolutely.
Mohammed, thank you so much that you were part of this. And thank you. Good morning to you and good morning to Libya. I
Thank
realized
you so
that
much.
in the beginning, I accidentally, instead of saying North Africa, I may have said North America. I think you
Yeah.
may have noticed that. So I want to apologize for that. That is,
Absolutely.
I absolutely know that where Libya is. It was just out of the flow. I actually did that. But that is not
Yeah.
the problem. And
Absolutely. We're one nation. It's one globe, It's one
exactly,
globe. We're in it together. North Africa, North America, South India, anywhere. It's definitely one globe, and just a testimony of how close connected we can be more than ever. So thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you so much. And all the people who are watching, I hope you have put down your comments. I couldn't see them here, but in the answers, I will put the answers for you. And I think we can thank Mr. Mohammed here because of for his immense expertise in this subject. And that is all. Thank you so much. I am your Vishal Gautam. I'm your host. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.